Okay, now we're working on the Chapter 3 review. This should be the 4th day of class. All right, graphing linear equations. I know this is something that all of you struggle with, so we'll go through this again. All right, plotting points. Okay, plotting points just merely means finding coordinates to plot. You need an x and a y for each term. A number of xy combinations. Okay, so if you're going to plot y equals 2x, okay, okay, the problem I'm seeing here, I apologize, is that they have two different equations here. Okay, so we're going to ignore that one and use the one in the table itself. So we just choose some values of x. 0 is always easy. 1 is pretty nice. In this case, we're also going to choose a 2, and I'll explain why. Okay, if I plug in a 0 for x, I get 1/2 times 0 plus 1. Well, that's 0 plus 1. So I have a point 0, 1. Okay, now if I plug in a 1, I get 1/2 times 1 plus 1. Well, that's 1/2 plus 1. This gives me 1.5. So I have 1, 1.5. Now, since a half is not as easy to plot, sometimes what we would do is with this 1/2, make all of our x values even so that they will divide out and give me an integer instead of a fraction. For example, 2, I would have 1/2 times 2 plus 1. Well, that's 1 plus 1, or 2. So I would have 2, 2. All right, so for another example, what I'm talking about is I probably would not normally have chosen a 1. I would choose 0, 2, and 4 because 4 is a even number. So that when I divided it or multiplied it by 1/2, dividing it in half, I would get the whole number 2. I add the 1 and I have 3. So I would also have 4, 3. Sorry, I've got some really bad allergies, so I'm a little sniffly today. All right, 0, 1. 0 in the x, 1 in the y. 1 in the x, 1.5 in the y. 2, 2. And then 4, 3. So this is our line. Okay. Then I would like you to write next to the line the equation you just graphed. That indicates exactly what line that is. Okay, moving on. Y equals 6x minus 4. So we choose a point. So we're going to choose 0, 1, and -1. -1 is also sometimes a really good number to choose. Okay, so I have 6 times 0 minus 4. Well, that's 0 minus 4. So I have 0, minus 4. A 1 would give me 6 times 1 minus 4, which is 6 minus 4, or 2. So I would have 1, 2. -1 would give me 6 times -1 minus 4. This is negative 6 minus 4, which is negative 10. Well, if I look down at my graph, it's not going to give me a negative 10. See, it only goes down to negative 7. So I'm going to step back upwards and try 2, since we already did 1. So that's going to be 6 times 2 minus 4, which is 12 minus 4, or 8. So not only would I have negative 1, negative 10, I would have 2, 8. So I can find ones that'll fit. So I have 0, negative 4, 1, 2, wow, look at that slope. And then 6, that's about a 7, and maybe an 8 up there. So that gives me my line. Okay, so now I'm going to draw my line. I'm getting out a ruler to help me draw a straight line. Okay, on the iPad, that's tough to do. All right. So, hopefully there are no questions. I will have a Zoom meeting for you later on actually, by the time you're listening to this, you already should have had one. We'll have another one shortly, and then you can ask questions. All right, graph using intercepts and a checkpoint. If your equation is written in this form, with the two variables on one side and a constant on the other, one of the easiest things to do is to graph by intercepts. So what we do is if I set x equal to 0, I find where it's crossing the y-axis. This is called a y-intercept. So a y-intercept, x equals 0. If I plug in an x equals 0, I get y equals 3. So I know that I am crossing the y-axis at a positive, I forgot to put my little mat down that prevents me from doing weird things like that, 3, right there, okay? Now my x-intercept is when y is equal to 0, and when y is equal to 0, I get x equals 3. So I also have an x-intercept right there. Now I have 2 points. I'm going to choose one more point in between them. So I'm going to choose x equals 1. So if I choose x equals 1, I get 1 plus y equals 3. 1 plus y equals 3. I subtract 1 from both sides, I get y equals 2. So I have the point x is 1, y is 2. So right there. All right, that looks like it's all in line, so I haven't made a mistake with one of my other points. So now I draw my line. Okay, sorry. There we go, pretty close. I'll make sure that works. Okay. Now we're on to the page, which I accidentally stuck in a blank one. There we go, we skipped it. Okay, and now we're going to graph 2x minus y equals 6. So again, we're going to lay down an xy chart. We're going to do x is 0, and we're going to do a y is 0. So when x is 0, y is negative 6, because I would have negative y equals 6. If I multiply both sides by negative 1, y is negative 6. If I plug in a y of 0, I get 2x equals 6, so x equals 3. All right, so I have 3, 0, so 3 in the x, 0 in the y, 0 in the x, negative 6. Okay, I'm going to blow this up a little bit so I can actually read the button. There we go, negative 6. All right, I'm going to check a point in between If I kind of draw a straight line, yeah, okay. I'm going to try 2. If I plug in a 2, I get 2 times 2 is 4 minus y equals 6. Subtract the 4, negative y equals 2, so y equals negative 2, which is 2 integers, so yay. 2 and negative 2, sure enough, that falls right on that line, so I have not made a mistake. Okay, sorry, I accidentally hit something again. Sheesh. Okay, so I've got a line going that way. Oh, I haven't had you write your equation. Shoot. Okay, so it's 2x minus y equals 6. All right, graphing an equation using the slope and intercept. Now, when you get this in the form of y equals, this is going to be a y equals mx plus b. M is your slope. B is your y-intercept. So what you're going to do is plot B. In this case, make it a little bigger. There we go. Negative 2. Right there on the y-intercept. I'm going to cross off my slope. My slope is 2/3. My intercept is negative 2. Okay, so I'm going to code. Remember our slope. Rise over run. 1, 2, and then I count off 1, 2, 3 in a positive run. So this is my next point, and I can do it again. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and I'd have another point. Again, I can do it backwards. If I'm doing it the other direction, I drop 2 and run backwards 4. This gives me 2 negatives, leaving me with still a positive slope. And there we go. Okay, slope-intercept form again. Our intercept is 1. Our slope is 3. So we're going to plot that. 1. Intercept is 1. Our slope is 3, which means a rise of 1, 2, 3, and a run of 1. 3 and a run of 1. Backwards, 1, 2, 3, backwards 1. Down 3, backwards 1. So I can see I've got quite a line here. I find the more points I plot, the more accurate my graph. Okay, so that is your slope-intercept. So I'm going to recap real quick. I'm just going to kind of write it down over here. Okay, for graphing, if you have a... Okay, so let's start off with what we did in order. So, 1. If it says to graph by points, choose 3 points, plot, and graph. So plot the points and graph it. Okay? If, on the other hand, it gives you an equation as something like that, okay? X and Y on one side, a constant on the other. This you're going to graph by intercepts. So, x equals 0, y equals 0, plus 1 point. All right, that's how you graph those. 3, if it's in the y equals mx plus b, plot b, count off m. Remember that it's rise over run. Okay, now we're done. All right, work on your homework, get your mastery in, and we will progress. Remember, next class, you're supposed to be taking the quiz. So you're going to have to do that online, the quiz on 1 through 3.